Plants, the green frontier. These are the discussions of the podcast Horticult. Its continuing mission to talk about strange new cultivars, to seek out new flowers and plant them, to boldly garden like no one has before. What's up? This is Blaine from the Horticult. How y'all doing? On today's episode of the podcast, we have M'li Hoki. She is a business owner, a small business owner of Waterwise Designers. So she designs yards. She's had a very interesting career path, and we get into that. We talk about what she's done and where she's come from and how it's never freaking too late to get into horticulture and do what you love. So let's get it on. All right, well, this is B-Flame.
And this is B-Rad.
And we are the Horticult. Thanks for coming along for the ride. On this episode of the podcast, we have a special guest with us, M'li Hoki. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for letting me come.
Welcome.
So we're just we don't really know each other, so we'll just get to know each other a little bit more.
Yeah.
So where are you from?
Originally everywhere. My dad was a pilot, so we kind of moved all over the United States, the western half, that is. So, yeah. The last few years, I've been in Utah for 12 years. Before that, I was in California, Southern California, for 14 years.
Which part?
Do you know Newbury Park?
No.
Thousand Oaks?
Thousand Oaks sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's just, what I say, south of Ventura.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Right on.
So, yeah, it's a beautiful place, gorgeous soil, wonderful growing conditions. I kind of miss it.
It's probably all houses now.
Not as much. They have what's called Save Our Open Space, or SOAR, which is bad for people who have property, but great for people who don't.
Oh, yeah.
Because, yeah, you have to change the designation of a property. For example, if you have a ranch and you want to sell it and have it developed, you have to have the people vote and say, okay.
I like the open space idea.
Yeah, so there's a lot of open space because nobody wants to vote and say, okay, you can build development there.
Well, that's like a big deal going on in Utah, is like all the development that's happening is farmland or raise some sort of crop.
It's going. Yeah.
Especially along this section in Utah County.
Yeah.
Salt Lake's gone.
Yeah.
Northern Utah County especially. I mean,
well, that's what
really just disappearing.
Mike Overson, we talked to him because he wants to be a farmer one day. He wants to have a farm, and he's like, I'm going to have to go down south.
Just going to have to keep and do it quick, otherwise that's going to fill up too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's cool. That's awesome. No, I was Southerner. California. I spent 2 years in San Bernardino County, so I was up in Hesperia and Apple Valley.
A little more warm.
Yeah, I was baking hot.
Yeah, I loved our area. We were 7 miles from the coast, but there was like a little tiny mountain range. It wasn't really, when you know what the Rocky Mountains look like, it's not a mountain. So, but we didn't have to have air conditioning. It was like 75 degrees.
And now you're here.
So
now I'm here.
What brings you here? I mean, is it
no, I was married for, I think it was 14 years and had some kids and then got a divorce and thought, okay, where do I want to raise my kids? And I thought we need to raise them near family. My family is here, so I moved here.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So, yeah, been here 12 years. Maybe it's even 13. 2007, January.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Did I see that you went to BYU?
Yes. Yeah, I actually went to BYU, Hawaii when I was, back in the dark ages. Got my associates in communications. And then after I moved here, we'll just tell my long story, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah.
But I thought I was going to be the responsible single mom. And I was going to go into accounting at BYU and, do accounting and earn money. And I got there and got into their calculus class. And I had my last math class was probably in high school. This was in 2012, and I was in my mid 40s. And I had my last math class was like the home ec math class in high school because calculus was not required back then. And so I didn't do well. We'll just leave it there. I did not do well. and was like, okay, what am I going to do now? You know, I still am at BYU, and I'm not going to make it into the accounting program. And happened on a little pamphlet that talked about the landscape management program, a full bachelor's, which is something I had looked for years. You know, everybody only offered like a certificate or, you know, an associate's. And I thought, where has this been? And just tossed all caution to the wind and majored in landscape management.
Oh, very cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I loved it. It was a great program.
So you went the full 4 years and...
Well, yeah, I had my
that?
associates, so
right.
it was just 3. So
Cool.
yeah.
That's exactly the same time when I started going back to school.
Really?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
2012.
Yeah, so I went from 2009 to 2012. So
Oh, so I finished right when you...
yeah. What did you
Oh,
go
no, I started when you finished. Horticulture. But
Okay.
it was through Utah State because that's where I went.
That's another great program.
Yeah. So I was doing the Orem Extension Office.
Oh, okay.
And then we would commute up to Kaysville.
You know they have a master's program all online now.
Yeah.
Is that with the Quell system?
No,
no?
it's
through
an
the-
ecology. Do they call
yeah.
it ecology? I can't remember what it is, but it's mainly water efficient landscaping.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you go, you become an auditor, I guess, a water auditor. Maybe,
no, it's
possibly.
different. It's an actual master's degree
Right.
and I can't remember the exact name of it, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like water efficiency, something.
Dude, I'm down.
yeah,
Let's get it. Oh.
yeah. I've thought about it seriously, but
Mm-hmm.
when do you have time to do that?
So you graduated, and then tell us where you went. What have you been doing?
Yeah. Well, I had to think about life because here I am being the irresponsible single mom now, graduating in landscape management at age 45.
Nice.
And I thought I could apply at all these, landscape companies, but I already knew their answer. Ha 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 ha, right?
Yeah.
So I decided to work at Linden Nursery. I worked at Linden Nursery for a couple of summers. I thought, I'm going to get, that experience. I want the experience of a nursery because I wanted to start my own business. I volunteered at the Orem Conservation Garden Park because I wanted to kind of figure out the water efficient stuff. And also volunteered at my city, the Pleasant Grove City Beautification Committee. And then got a call from one of the kids that I graduated with, and he says, hey, I've started this landscape company. Do you want to come work with me? And so I went and mowed lawns with him.
No way.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it so much that I bought I bought him out at the end of, I think it was probably 2013.
And this is a Utah County,
Yeah, it was Utah County. He was more in Springville, but
no way.
But once I bought it, I kind of dropped all the Springville people and moved it to the northern. Kind of my clients were more northern Utah County. And it was a high-end landscape maintenance, full service.
Well, and you kind of have to, with a business like that, you really have to. The closer you can stay to the nucleus of the business, the better, right?
I learned really quickly to draw my boundary lines. I wouldn't go south of like North Provo.
Yeah.
It was even a stretch to go that far, and then would not cross the freeway unless we were doing a big job. And then, I just kept
as
it in
much
that
as you
area.
wanted to be out there. Really,
You
to be
have
cost
to.
efficient. You
Yeah.
you have to bring it in.
When you take 3 guys and your break even is $35 per man hour, and you drive them over the point of the mountain, you better be driving to a huge job.
It better
Yeah.
be family or a huge job, right?
Yes. So I learned that very quickly the hard way.
Oh man,
Yeah.
cool. And so, how are things going as far as? Are you?
Well, I loved it. I did
many
it for.
crews or- oh.
Well, I had 2 crews, 6 employees, and we did it until last year, and then I sold it. So I sold it and decided to try something new because I couldn't keep employees.
Yeah.
Labor in Utah County for the landscape industry, and I'm sure you understand that, is just ridiculously hard.
Is it the amount of pay, or what?
No, I was
what is
paying
it
an
really
average
that-
of $17.80 an hour
Wow,
to
nice,
mow lawns.
nice, good
So
job.
That's
pay
really
was
good.
not. It was. I don't speak Spanish, and I didn't have the in, to that community, and so I would hire young guys who would either leave on missions or they would, thank you for paying us so well. We're now going to go start. We're going to
Start
go to
it.
school.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or I had one guy who started his own company.
Okay.
Yeah, and so they would leave before they were, able to take over foreman positions, and you can't run a company and do that.
True.
I think that's what Freddie has a freaking lawn thumbs.
Yeah.
Where that's his main focus is figuring out ways to keep his employees.
Yeah,
because
there's got to be a way to
valuable.
keep them. Yeah, I had excellent employees, beautiful, great employees that would just, they're not meant to make a living mowing lawns.
Yeah, the thing that's killing him is the seasonal aspect of it.
And then what do? You lay them off and let them go on workers' comp, but they're going to find another job somewhere else.
Yeah, it's not like the ski resorts, like where people keep coming back year after year after year.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen that way. And I got tired of that, and I couldn't do it. And and I'm getting older, and I was out with the crews. If a guy didn't show up, I would go mow the lawns all day.
That is so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah.
What was the name of the
Alpine Lawn and Landscape?
Oh, nice.
So it's still, you can still, the website's still up, and the guy who bought it, it's called Smart Yard now, but he still uses Alpine Lawn and Landscape. So, yeah.
Wow, fantastic.
So you sold it. What are you at now?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Well, I decided to start designing because I don't have to have employees. And I figured out my very, very favorite part of my company before was meeting all the clients and talking to them about their landscapes and everything. I really liked that we got to transform their landscapes, and now they can transform them, and I can go back and see.
Oh, yeah.
And I get to talk to people and talk about landscapes and draw up designs. And
so is that part of was what you learned from BYU? They have a design. Yeah. That's part of the design part of it.
Yeah, and plus, if if you love plants as much as I have, and I've done landscape and plants for almost my entire life, not professionally, but then you kind of start doing that. You kind of start drifting into design, I think, which is design is interesting. It's seasonal. It's another thing. When you're starting off to try to earn money. So I did take a part-time job with All Green Pest Control. I'm doing their administrative work, so back to the accounting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the landscape stuff.
Hey.
Yeah, so that's been fun. It's been really fun working with them because I don't know if you've met anybody from All Green Pest Control.
I haven't, no.
Have you ever watched the YouTube Lawn Ginger?
Yes.
Yes.
I know Lawn Ginger.
He may hate me for saying that, but
he's pretty funny. He's pretty
hilarious.
Good. Yeah.
They were the ones who did all the chemicals for my clients. We would go out and spray the weeds. We were licensed pest applicators, but I didn't want to deal with all the rest of it. And called around to see if I could find anybody with good ratings that would, do it for a company.
Yeah.
And he was willing to take us on, and I loved it because if my clients had an issue with their lawn weeds or color or whatever, I'd just call him and say, hey, what's going on? We need to look at this. And he'd say, meet me at the client's house. And we would walk through the lawn together and talk about what was going on. He'd come up with this specific plan and that's what he still does.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to find him, he has a YouTube channel that he goes and helps people diagnose their problems, and he goes through and how to fix it and before and afters and stuff, and he's hilarious. He's
I do have to say he's really, really, really busy, so
yeah,
it's kind of hard to just call and assume that he's going to come, but there are people who can help.
So it's True Green or All Green? Or?
All Green Pest Control.
All Green Pest Control. Yeah. Nice.
So do you have a name for your design?
Waterwise Designs.
Waterwise Designs.
Yeah,
good.
I got lucky with that one because I thought,
I know.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I didn't think that I would be able to get actually get that name, but I was able to get that name.
So with that name, obviously you're working towards Waterwise landscapes.
Yeah, I took a local scapes class, and the way I've always loved Waterwise landscapes and stuff like that. And when they came up with that local scapes idea, I thought it was just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Because it finally was able to just take all my thoughts and just condense what I had thought all along.
Well, and in organized fashion too. Here's like the 4 or 5 steps.
Yeah, 5.
And I love
5 steps.
Design around the lawn. Think about the lawn first.
Totally.
And then you don't just have it as leftover pieces here and there.
So you're going at this from like a very passionate angle.
Oh yeah, this has always been my
so cool
thing that I love the most.
And how's your knowledge on the plant palette of all of the Waterwise and even some native stuff? Awesome.
Yeah,
oh,
that's
cool.
You know, doing a lot of my landscape stuff. It was usually in my own yard in California, but a lot of that is waterwise in the Mediterranean stuff.
Awesome.
There's a lot of stuff that I would love there that you can't grow here, but I concentrated, especially going with the conservation garden bark in Orem. Started looking at what is waterwise. What does it mean? What kind of plants can you grow? Does it actually mean xeriscape or zeroscape?
Yeah,
and it doesn't.
Well, and you get a chance to maybe see how well that specimen does in the landscape.
Oh yeah.
Some don't do that. Some just simply don't do that well, or maybe it's just not that brilliant for the customer.
Right.
And so maybe you can. Yeah, that's really cool that you had that experience.
Yeah. So I've tried looking into design classes, but they're like, if you want to be a landscape architect and go into design, pick 15 plants and put them in your portfolio and use those plants and keep it simple. And I'm like,
Yeah, repetitive.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm lucky if I can do the 15 plants and
How about 15 genus? And then that would open up up to 100 species.
Maybe that's what they mean.
Or more.
I'll assume that's what they mean.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I like too. What Cynthia said. It was better to not say a specific plant and let the nursery professional figure out what is more appropriate for that. Yeah. Say like this size of fountain grass or whatever, but not say a specific variety. And then so it doesn't pigeonhole
opens
you
up the door
because you're like, I gotta find this one. You don't have it. I gotta find this one.
Carl Forrester.
Yeah, exactly. There's way more that could probably work for that spot and be different.
Yeah, that's what I try to do with my clients, because when I first, the beginning of this year, when I first started thinking about doing design, it all evolved in 2 weeks. It was like, maybe I'll start doing payroll again or whatever. What do I, now that my company's sold, what do I want to do? And it was just like all of a sudden, we're going to start a design company. And so I actually called or talked to Cameron Alcott from Progressive Plants. Yeah.
Because
I can't remember how the conversation. He's kind of funny.
He's awesome.
I can't remember how the conversation started, but it's like I needed to learn how to do the design software, and I said, "Does anybody know what's a good software?" And he's like, "Hey, come over here, and I'll just show you how to use what I use. See if you like it." And so he talked about that. He's like, as a grower, he said, there's so many great plants. He says, but they go in and out all the time. They may or may not be available. When somebody comes in looking for them, there might be something a lot better. Mm-hmm. He says, so as a designer, why don't you just say, large drought tolerant yellow flowered plant that blooms, this time of year, this size.
Yeah, that's great.
Because there could be a ton of different great options.
Yeah.
But if you pigeonhole them, we'll say, hey, let's plant a Stella d'Oro daylily right there. What are you missing out on? Right?
Yeah, all the other good stuff, potentially.
So I still haven't quite evolved to that, because it requires making symbols in my software library, which takes 15 minutes per symbol. And which I don't have 15 minutes a day. Well, I guess if I could just do one a day, maybe I could convert it over. But anyway, so I do PDFs for my clients and try to explain, this is why I've chosen this plant. So, and I tell them, if you take it to the nursery and they don't have that, you have the description of why we chose that plant, and what the parameters are, and you can substitute that way.
Totally, yeah.
So.
Yeah, I just drew a design because I don't have a program. I don't do enough designs to warrant me paying for a program. Mm-hmm. So I just drew one out for my cousin the other day. It's been 2 or 3 weeks, but I tried to give her multiple plants for each one. Be like, okay, this is that graphic that I put, but you could put these many. It would
There's
work
so many
for,
options.
And it's not even close to what I could have put, but I'm probably going to go with her and go pick out some plants so we can.
and just see what's there and available and new and interesting. I
love
that.
It's like anytime I get a chance to just walk through, even if I have my kids or whatever, just test my knowledge. I'm not going to look at the tag and I'm going to guess what it is, and then okay, I got it. Or I was like, I don't even know what that is. I need to work in a nursery. The problem is I bring it back home with me.
Yeah. That's a problem.
Yeah. So what does your landscape look like at your
It's
residence?
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
When I bought my house, I had a specific parameter that I had to buy a house in because my ex-husband's parents were moving up here, and my parents were 10 minutes away from where his parents were moving. So he said, okay, I don't want you any further. You can move to Utah with the kids if you stay in that area. So we finally found this house, and it was the only house really that fit because I had 6 hours to find a house. And
Whoa.
It was a blank slate. It was all grass, and I was so excited. I'm like, oh my word, I get to start from scratch on this property. And so, I... Yeah.
Bring out the Roundup. Woohoo! Yes. Oh, no, just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I can't believe you said that.
No. Yeah, Lo siento, sorry.
Yeah. You're going to kill all the fish in the ocean. All
yes.
the birds in the sky.
Hey, I did hear recently that... anyway, that's another story.
Yeah. So, I went to... At the time, I didn't know what nurseries were good. So I went to... And it was a good nursery. I went to Highland Gardens, and I bought, I don't know how many fruit trees. I think I probably bought 20 fruit trees.
Wow, nice.
Half of them died, of course, because I was still learning about this area. But so we've got fruit trees, we've got garden beds. I have a huge slope in my backyard, so we've got the garden beds sloping down.
Nice.
It's a lot of fun.
Cool. How are your fruit trees doing this year?
Fantastic.
I assume awesome. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually going to get a ton of fruit on my Dapple Dandy Pluot that, it's only given me a few fruit in the previous years.
Yeah.
So, I'm really excited about the fruit.
That's so
no
cool.
frost damage. Yeah. I was a little worried about the fungal issues, because I've seen little tiny, there's been a couple of years where I've almost seen the peach tree leaf curl in my leaves previously, which in California was a huge issue. Every year it was bad, but I haven't seen anything this year.
Cool.
No problem. So it's been a good year.
Yeah, it's I think it's our region is good and bad, but because we don't get much fungal because of how dry
you don't have
it is.
the humidity.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, fungal issues were huge in the fruit trees. Copper sulfur was what I used. Lime sulfur.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think they sell lime sulfur anymore, do they?
Doesn't sound familiar. I'm thinking more of like a copper. Well, it's a copper sulfate.
Yeah, so it was lime sulfur back when I was using it in California, where we'd spray it in the fall as the leaves fell, and then in the winter, and then just as the leaves would swell, would spray it again.
So you had that experience in California.
Yeah. And then here, I was like, okay, I've got to start spraying my trees for fungal issues. And it's like, no, don't do that. Are you sure they'll be okay? And they're fine.
Cool.
So,
that's great. So, and then water-wise, plants and landscape portion of things, you're
that's been evolving because 12 years ago,
it takes time.
I didn't think about water-wise back then as much as the way I think about it now.
Oh yeah.
So we had the grass, and I carved out the bed in the center, which is going to go away soon. But this year I finally decided, my irrigation system is old enough that I'm starting to have to replace a lot of heads. And I was like, okay, how do I remove more lawn and leave a little bit? And I'm going to have to redo the irrigation. I'm like, why leave any lawn? So I've kind of made up my mind that the entire front lawn is going to be gone.
Yeah.
So, that'll be fun.
And then, do you incorporate annuals into your...
Only alyssum. Alyssum,
cool.
and sometimes I'll put pansies, but they generally die because I don't want her.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, though.
But alyssum seems to bring in beneficial insects and things.
Alyssum is great, and it's on the edges of my my beds that just have drip irrigation in them, and they're nowhere near the drip irrigation. And if I can keep them watered by hand for the first 2 weeks, they don't seem to need any more water after that.
Wow.
So and I
didn't know that.
They might be getting more water from somewhere. I don't know, but I don't water them, and they're nowhere near the drip irrigation, and they do really well.
That's great.
Yeah,
and they smell so good.
They smell good, and they're so pretty. I get the purple varieties, the mixed purple varieties, and all the beneficials, like you said, that come in. They're a great plant.
It's like the next gen. It's like a marigold. Like everybody knows marigolds and vegetables go well together, and alyssum is one of those.
I do have to tell you, in California, they were classified as an invasive plant.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I have noticed this year with all the rain that they're reseeding themselves, unlike I've ever seen before. But
wow,
yeah, but it's good.
I'm
leaving all of them.
Is it? Oh, it's the little white and purpley.
Yeah, there's little purple flowers or
Yep.
little white flowers or mixture. Yep. Yeah, that's the really pretty ones.
I just had remembered there's an alyssum that is that's the yellow flowered alyssum.
Yeah, is that the basket of gold?
Perennial,
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, cool.
I haven't tried that one yet.
Yeah, I haven't either.
You just know it.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it cycle through all of the plants that we grow. So yeah.
So I did see, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had a little vlog, or you've done blogging a little bit?
I'm thinking about it. I've known, you know how you sometimes get the thoughts in the back of your head that do not go away, and they come back year after year after year. Uh-huh. Well, I've thought I have to start a vlog, but I don't do well in front of camera. I mean, I just went and got, profile pictures done because you got to do those every once in a while. I have yet to go through them and look at them because I cannot stand looking at myself on camera. Right? So I have the idea. I have all the gear now. I got all the gear, and I just need the time to sit down and, because I like to plan. Lon Ginger told me, he says, don't plan it, just do it.
Just do it, yeah.
But, I need to have at least a little bit of structure to it. So I've almost got that done, and then I need to be brave and just go out and do it. That's the hard part.
You should.
Yeah.
That's great. Oh,
but what I would
cool.
what I want to do is kind of like what you guys are doing is, I don't know, I guess you've kind of seen my comments online on, I like the science idea. There's science to gardening. And if you can follow the science, you can usually have success. But that science looks different for different people.
Sure.
You can follow science and do completely opposite things. You can be a permaculture person and follow science. You can be totally, into, spraying Roundup and all those other chemicals and follow the science. Mm-hmm. So what I'd like to do is say, hey, here's the science principle. Here's what it looks like on my property. Let's go visit with other people and see what it looks like on their property.
Very cool.
And kind of pick and choose different topics that, so yeah, that's kind of what I would like to do if I can get the bravery to just do it.
Yeah. Well, and you love working with the customers and the people, the homeowners.
Oh yeah.
In different landscapes, and
yeah,
I think you do great.
And I love talking to people, so I've met a lot of different people that I would love to kind of feature.
Yeah.
That do things maybe a little bit differently than everybody else, and then there's other people who do things right by the book. So it would be fun to just kind of see how everybody does things differently, but still follows correct principles.
Yeah. I think of pruning.
Oh yeah.
And
now there are
correct
principles in pruning, and I am very strict on those.
Yeah. Well, fruit trees especially, right? I mean, there's a definite.
Although I have to tell you, I shock some people with how I prune my fruit trees.
Okay.
Back in California, you've heard of Dave Wilson Nurseries, right? They grow most of the fruit trees for nurseries. So anyway, Dave Wilson Nurseries, they had a class in they have a test garden in San Luis Obispo,
cool.
at the university over there. And they had a class called Backyard Orcharding, and I thought, I'm there. It's for me.
Yeah.
And so I went and was shocked at what they were teaching. They said, you're going to treat your fruit trees like roses. They say, if you take, just a normal shrub rose and let it get as big as it wanted, it would probably cover the side of a building, but you never let it do that.
Uh-huh.
You prune it to the size you want and keep it at the size you want. He says, that's what you're going to do with your fruit trees. And they had trialed it for 30 years by that point, where they'll take fruit trees, as long as you keep the same type. So, for example, the palms, the apples and the pears need to be together. The ones with just the regular pits, like the peaches and the nectarines and the stone fruit, the plums, keep those together. I haven't figured out what to pair cherries with. They're their own people.
Yeah, they are. They are.
But, as long as you keep those together, you can plant them in the same hole. I generally do 3 in a hole. And then you top them to knee height the first year that you plant them. So all you have is a stick with no foliage on it. And
now wait a minute. Just so they're small. They're whips more or less. In the beginning.
Small whips in the beginning.
And you put 3 trees in the same
same hole.
Wow.
Yeah.
What? That is awesome.
Angle them out a little bit so that you
sure.
can have the shape.
Okay.
Cut them to knee high. Me, it's I'm very short, so it's like mid thigh.
Okay.
And then you summer prune.
Mm-hmm.
In California, I would prune 3 times a year. So I'd prune in the fall to shape. Because in California, you pruned in the fall to shape, and then you prune in the spring. The new growth off in the spring, and then the new growth off in the summer. And if you keep doing that, it naturally dwarfs the tree. And the goal is to never let it get above whatever height you choose, 6 to 8 feet.
Okay.
Or shorter.
Wow.
And so all my fruit trees
Cool.
are standard fruit trees, on the standard rootstock. And I keep them about 6 to 8 feet tall, except for my cherry tree, which is 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really, really short compared to the way farmers used to grow fruit.
But you can do that and still use correct pruning principles.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Wow,
but I've had
great.
people that look at me in horror, like, what are you doing to your fruit trees?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I've taught several people how to do it and helped them in their yards do it, and then had them call me back and say, my neighbors are telling me that I've destroyed my yard and my fruit trees. So.
Well, see, and my thinking has always been, well, you prune them in the winter.
Here you need to
avoid the disease and all of that business, but
yeah, well, for the pruning that shapes the fruit tree, and ornamental trees, you prune them early spring, late winter. Mm-hmm. But the summer pruning takes off, the leaves. It takes off as nutrients, and so not as many nutrients get to the roots, and it dwarfs the tree.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't kill it. It does reduce the lifespan by about 5 years. But who cares if it's a fruit tree?
Well, right, yeah. Fruit trees are like temporary anyway. I mean, really, they are.
Yeah, you're going to be replacing them.
Yeah, because the yield will just simply go down after, 25, 30 years.
Yeah, and you don't want, you're going to want to replace them before that anyway, so.
Yeah, cool.
So it's kind of fun. Yeah.
Nice.
See, so you can be different and do proper principles at the same time.
I love that. Be different.
Yeah.
Well, I did have one. I just had a really quick question that kind of came across as we were talking. And you built up this very successful landscape lawn company. Did you do your own accounting and business portion of it?
Everything was me.
And that's probably why it was so successful.
Yeah.
Oh, it was not easy. My hours, I would be up at, I'm a light sleeper, so I would be up like at 7, maybe a little bit earlier. Have the first guy get there for the trucks at 8. He'd take the truck to the storage unit, meet the guys there, and then I would be out, working with the clients and stuff like that. And we worked 4 days a week, 10 hours a day. Oh, yeah. So we could have a rain day. If there was rain,
just in case.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I could be out with the clients, so I would, I did all that, and then I'd get home. We were usually done about 6:30 or 7 at night. And then I would come home and, I was a single mom. So, do the kids stuff, and then by 10 o'clock I'd get my second wind, cause that's when I usually get my second wind, and I would start doing the paperwork, and I'd do that till about 2, and then would start again.
Wow.
So,
impressive.
Yeah, it was a lot of work.
Yeah. That's great.
So with this, although I guess I'm back to that now, kind of, because, I do my, part-time job till 3 in the afternoon, and then I start with the waterwise stuff, and then all my paperwork and design stuff goes at night. And so I guess I'm kind of back to what I was.
Yeah,
without as much stress.
So do you have people that you think of that are in the industry, the growers, that can grow these waterwise natives and or natives? I
think if you think just natives, then there's not a lot of people who grow those.
Do you have any people in mind when
no.
you think of okay?
No, because when I think plants, waterwise plants, I think plants that there's a lot of plants that are waterwise that people can buy anywhere and grow. And that's what I try to focus on: plants that are available. So the coneflowers, the lavenders, the elderberries. They have new varieties of elderberries that are great.
Yes,
hardy hibiscus is very waterwise. There's plants that you can get anywhere. Like we were talking about the alyssum. Mm-hmm. That's waterwise. Not as waterwise as some of the others, but it's a lot more waterwise than some of the other annuals. So.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and if it needs a little bit more water, you can go out and hand water it. You don't
Yeah.
have to water the whole yard more just to water your illis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking of all the penstemon and the
Yeah, the
things out there that are
penstemons,
just
you know,
rocking awesome.
Yeah, you can get penstemon at just about any nursery. You know, if you want specialty penstemons, then, you know, I don't know, maybe doesn't the Conservation Garden Park sometimes have plant sales?
I know
where
that. I
they-
know Red Butte does.
Yeah.
In the fall, they have their perennial native
Yeah.
water-wise plants.
So I'm thinking if you want like the specialty
Mm-hmm.
native waterwise stuff, that you might have to start looking. Or what is that online out of Colorado? No, out of New Mexico.
High Desert
High Country
Garden.
Gardens.
Yes, High Country Gardens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you start having to order online, but you know, there's no problem ordering online.
Yeah. Man, that's fantastic plant material. I love
Yeah.
that what they have to offer.
Have you ever heard of Native Roots?
It sounds really familiar.
It's out of Idaho, but they use Great Basin. Anything that they grow is native Great Basin,
Oh, really?
and they're trying to make the, I guess, create the market to be the seller or grower that these other nurseries can buy local native from.
That's a difficult
It is very difficult
thing to do. Yeah.
But yeah, they have their own. I guess they do a lot of revegetation of like fire areas too.
See, now
so
that-
it's not
yeah.
just for nurseries, but they do stuff like that too.
Yeah, so that would be helpful, I think, on a business standpoint, because you've got to have demand for
Right.
the
You have to have the
plants.
numbers to be able to
Yeah,
justify it.
Yeah, that guy's
you've
really
got to
funny,
cover your
too.
costs.
I sat through a lecture of his at the Green Conference, and it was hilarious. But
Native roots, huh?
Native Roots, yeah,
Southern
So-
Idaho.
yeah. I think it's
Do
like
they just-
Idaho Falls.
Do they just sell to nurseries, or can you order online?
I
or-
think you would have to buy a huge amount. Yeah. I
Okay,
think
so they're
bulk
wholesalers
buyers. Yeah,
then.
they're wholesalers.
Okay.
But
But at least there's somebody trying.
right,
Exactly, yeah.
I think they see that there is a kind of a void that
Yeah.
we do want natives. It's just really hard to get them, but it's really hard to grow them. That's why we don't have them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have tried. I think there's, you know, I've heard of a lot of people who've tried and gone and tried and gone and tried and gone, and yeah, it's the demand for those plants that I think is a killer, or the
Yeah.
lack of demand.
Like Cameron Alcott said, because I asked him, I'm like, do you sell things or grow things that you know are not going to sell? Like, from like a more of a moral standpoint, you should grow these plants so it kind of makes it possible for people to buy them. Or do you just grow things that you know will just are hot cakes and people will buy? And he's like, well, both.
Yeah.
It's like you kind of there's a give and take.
Yeah.
Like he said, he grew like 3,000 Foresters, Carl
Oh, yeah.
Foresters, or something crazy because it sells, but he hates them. He
Right.
hates them.
Yeah.
There's so many other
That people
grasses
want.
that will work.
People want them, and that's exactly what he said. He's like, I grow them because I can sell them, and I mean, he's a business.
You have to be a business person. You know, I don't know if you guys ever follow the Garden Professor blog or whatever, you know, on Facebook. They're very, very, I mean, they have great correct principles that they're preaching. You know, like they want everybody to root wash all their plants and correct the root structure before they plant them, which is a fantastic idea. But then they've carried it to the point where if you're a commercial operation and you're not doing that, then you're cheating your customers. But I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Because who's going to pay for all the extra time? You know, if it takes like a half an hour to root wash a tree and you've got 200 you've got to wash before you plant them, who's going to pay that extra cost? There's no client that's going to pay that extra cost, and there's
Right.
no company that's going to eat that cost.
Well, see, that's why it's important for the consumer, the homeowner, to do it, because
Yeah,
then
if they could do that,
it's on them.
Yep.
It's beneficial for them
Yep.
to do it, to keep their tree living longer.
and
if they
you
just
know,
knew what to
just
do.
have information. Say, here's how you do it. Here's what you do. You know, it's on you. Go ahead and do it, and your plant
You know,
will be
I don't think
better for it.
I've never done it.
I've never
I
done
never
that.
have either. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've tried to like correct a girdling root, or if you could tell when you're like, oh,
Yeah, I'll go in and
or
look
whatever.
at it and tease things
Yeah,
out.
but I've
yeah.
never root washed it.
Now, have you talked to what's his name? Is it Jason Bartow? No,
That sounds familiar.
Relief Utah.
He is next on the list to have as a guest.
You need to talk to him.
He was
Oh, my word.
hilarious because I called him or messaged him, and he was like, "Sure, I'll be on your podcast." He's like, I have one question. What's a podcast?
So
Yeah.
funny.
I was like, sweet.
See, this is what I
Come
love
on
to
down.
do. This is what I love to do. I love to meet people in the industry, and he had kind of posted that they were going to do like a project at his nursery or something like that. And I thought, I'm in because I want to meet him. Because I have to tell you, and I've said this on Facebook, and I will never live this down, is, I like to, make my ideas known, and sometimes I'm a little forceful. And he was talking about, planting trees, and you need to remove all the root ball, all the wire and the burlap, which I totally agree with. But you're never going to get a homeowner who can do that. If you have, a 2-inch caliper tree, and they don't have equipment,
I don't care.
and they don't have the equipment,
I have
there's
a
no way
great
to do
story.
it.
I have a great story.
Go ahead, yeah.
So we're at Mirinda, and I'm like low tier, right? Bottom tier person. And we had some cherries die, some ornamental cherries die. And we had like dry stacks or whatever. So we used a forklift to pull them out. But we connected the forklift to the metal
Wire
basket. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird. I told Brent, who had been there forever. I called him out. Dang it. Sorry, Brent. Brent, be like, why didn't we take the wire basket off? He's like, how are we going to get the dead trees out if it doesn't have a wire basket on it? Oh, and I went, well, if we took the wire basket off,
We
it
wouldn't
might
have
have
dead
lived
trees.
longer. Yeah. It was so funny.
Oh, that's great.
But man, it did really make removing those trees a whole lot easier because you
Yeah.
just tie it on and
Lift
hoist
them right
it
out.
out.
Yeah, but yeah, there's typical homeowners do not have the equipment to lift those trees to do it. So I was arguing with him. I was like, why don't you, just dig the hole big enough, get the tree in there, peel it all down, and then cut out half of it. He's like, no, you've got to do the whole thing. And I was arguing with him, not knowing who he was.
Oh, nice.
Mr. Arborist of the
"Bring
Year.
Right.
Here I am, big and strong, and I know everything, but no. So I was arguing with the Arborist of the Year on how to plant trees. And finally he said, just tip the dang tree over, cut the bottom off, slip it in, and then take the rest off. And I'm like, oh my word, that's brilliant. I need to meet this guy. And so I went to his little, project that nobody showed up to, which I was really happy about because I got to corner him and just sit and talk and pick his brain. And he has come up with this method of growing trees in gravel beds, which basically is bare root trees. So he grows them in gravel, and then when he removes all the pulls them out of the gravel, and there you have a bare root tree that you can plant any time of the year.
No way.
And it works fantastic. He was showing me the roots on some of those trees, and they are beautiful. So,
Wow.
yeah. So I'm like,
Wow,
see,
that's
if you
cool.
can come up with ideas like that, and I think you can do that commercially, even as like a landscape contractor, have your own gravel bed, heal those trees in, keep them watered, and that's plausible rather than sitting and trying to root wash all your trees.
Yeah.
It'd be brilliant to be able to capture that because in gravel, obviously, the water's going to drop quick, right?
Right.
Somehow be able to capture that in some kind of a basin underneath.
I think he
and
was
then
talking
recycle
about
it.
trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so I can't wait to hear the podcast with him. He's great to talk to. He's great.
He's been really cool over the messenger. That's when we had to reschedule.
Oh, sure.
I hadn't been in contact with Brad for a few weeks, and then I had set up the appointment, and then Brad's not available.
Oh, darn it.
So we got to push him back. He was cool, though.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah, that'll be a good one.
Yeah. Nice.
The only thing I wanted to ask you is what because I keep thinking about questions, but it keeps coming back to design. Because if I went back to school, I would go back and be an architect. Like
Yeah.
I would look to go that direction.
This is your work right here.
Yeah, that's projects from when I was
I love it.
Yeah.
that was when I first started. Anyway, what program do you use? Do you use AutoCAD?
Pro Landscape.
Pro Landscape.
Yeah.
I've never even heard of Pro Landscape.
They're really great. I really like them. Cameron thinks they're a little clunky, and they are because they don't have they have thousands of plants in there, but they're not ever the plants you want. But it's they're the way to create this. It's easy to create new ones. It just takes time.
That's what I was going to ask. Can you type in the name and put a size and parameter to it? And
and then pull in a
simply use it?
picture.
Uh-huh.
And,
Yep.
Yeah, and do that.
Cool.
And yeah, I like it. It's user friendly. I have done a few CAD things in the past, so that came back pretty quickly. But
Okay.
yeah, it's There are things, like, for example, Cameron, I did a design for Cameron, for one of his clients. And he's like, you've got to tone down the transparencies. And I'm like, what? But there's little things like that where they don't put them in the instructions. You have to call support, and you have to be home at the time to call support when they're actually working. So that's a little bit of a problem. But other than that, it's a great program.
He says to tell you I paid you, Cameron.
Thank you, Cameron. I've been waiting.
I don't know if he's still listening, but yeah. So there you go.
Cool.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Totally
funny.
agree.
He's got a lot of information to pick his brain for.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
tons and tons.
Mm-hmm.
We were lucky to have him on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed that interview.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love these because you learn so much about people that you would never know otherwise.
That's what it's all about.
Well, and random subjects come up, and you kind of riff about that, and cool things come about. So,
well, that's pretty good. So, thank you for coming. Where can people find you to do designs for online or your social media?
Yeah, it's www.waterwisedesigners.com because the Waterwise Designs was taken. So, but designers is good.
There you go.
Even though it's just me.
Nice.
I can be more than one person at the same time.
Did you want people to follow you on Instagram or anything like that?
I have not done Instagram. I need to start. I just, But
any Facebook group or anything? You are
I am
an
on
administrator.
all in Utah Gardens.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Utah Gardeners.
Gardeners. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on all the Facebook groups. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. This has been a lot of fun.
All right. Well, there we go. That was episode number 77. M'li Hoki with Waterwise Design. Thanks for sharing your story with us. We very much appreciate it. I want to thank Brad for coming and doing this podcast with me. I want to thank the podlings out there. Thank you so much for listening. We love you. Come find us on Facebook. Come join the club. We have a Facebook group specifically just for the listeners of this podcast. We also have a horticulture business page that you can like and follow and keep up to date with what we're doing. We have videos on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, The Horticulture. We have these live podcasts on Facebook where you could find the videos of these and see us interacting together as we record these live, unedited versions of the show. Thank you so much, and remember to plant on, Babylon.